Welcome to Speak English Podcast with Rory and Alex.
Welcome to the deep dive. You know that feeling, right? When you've read all the articles, you've done the research, your brain is just absolutely full of English sentences, full of knowledge. But then when it's time to actually do something, to speak or even just to start that big project, your brain just hits the brakes.
It just stops.
Yeah, you feel like you're busy, but then you get this sinking feeling that you're not actually moving forward. It's paralyzing.
That internal friction, that running in place feeling is exactly what the source material you sent over is trying to dissect.
Right.
So our mission today is really to cut through that noise. We're going to analyze the specific psychological blocks, you know, the overthinking, the perfectionism, that really strict inner voice that just keeps the pause button pressed down.
Oh, okay.
We want to pull out tangible micro strategies that help you move from that paralysis to progress. From just thinking to actually doing.
Okay, let's unpack this one. Let's start right there at the beginning with that mental static that keeps us quiet, that keeps us stuck. The sources, they describe overthinking as this kind of massive brain traffic problem. It's like you're full of potential, you're full of knowledge, but everything just stalls because all the thoughts are just shouting at once.
Yeah, a complete gridlock.
Why does our brain do that to us?
Well, it's often a form of self-sabotage, but it's disguised as preparation. You know, the deep root of that traffic jam is almost always this desire for perfection.
Perfectionism.
Exactly. And the sources describe it not as some noble goal, but as a beautiful cage.
A beautiful cage. I like that.
It feels safe in there, right? It's orderly, it's protected, but it keeps you absolutely immobile. It's that little voice whispering, wait, prepare more. You're not quite ready yet.
So that cage is potent, but if you're already in it, what's the first move? What's the smallest, least scary way to just test the lock? Because waiting for that perfect moment, that perfect delivery...
You'll wait forever.
It's a moving target.
It is. The first micro strategy here is to just embrace what we could call messy.
Messy, okay.
Yeah, perfectionism says your output has to be flawless. Otherwise, it's worthless. The solution is to deliberately choose to produce something real. Something, human.
Even if it's awkward or incomplete.
Especially if it's awkward or incomplete.
Yeah.
When you choose to speak or to act, even if it feels clumsy, you're prioritizing motion over polish. You're just getting started.
Okay, so that moves us into the mechanics of it. If perfectionism is the trap, we need to understand who or what is locking the door behind us. How does that strict inner voice actually enforce the silence?
That door is locked by the inner critic. And you should think of it not just as a voice, but as this powerful, judgmental entity. It's like a really strict teacher inside your head.
Okay.
And it thrives on extremes. It's a mechanism the sources call black and white thinking.
Right, black and white thinking. So explain that mechanism. I mean, how does that thought pattern actually stop you from growing?
It takes one isolated event, a mistake, a slip-up, a moment of awkwardness, and it globalizes it. It makes it everything.
So it's not, I made a mistake. It's,
I am a failure. Instead of thinking, okay, I messed up and I learned something here, the inner critic just screams, I am the worst learner ever. That extreme language, always, never, worst, that's the signal.
That's red flag.
That's the red flag. And you stop because you feel condemned by this internal bully before you even get a chance to be resilient.
So the immediate response shouldn't be to argue with the critic, but just to label it. To step back and say, okay, that's the critic speaking, and then just discard the thought instead of internalizing it.
Exactly. You change the soundtrack by recognizing the genre of the music, and this connects directly to the whole idea of confidence.
Right.
We often think confidence is some feeling we have to wait for, like a gift. But if you look at the Latin root, fidere, it just means to trust.
To trust.
Confidence isn't about feeling competent all the time. It's about having trust in your ability to handle whatever comes next.
And trust isn't something you just get. It's built through small, reliable acts. It's not a switch you can just flip on.
It's a muscle. It's developed through exposure. Every single time you show up to a situation you fear, every time you speak that messy sentence or try something for just 10 minutes, you're proving to yourself, hey, I can handle this.
Yeah. You
build that self-trust by repeatedly keeping promises to yourself, even the tiny ones.
Which brings us perfectly to the solutions. If the problem is this big, scary, monolithic thing like perfectionism, the strategy has to be, atomic. We don't need to take a huge leap. We just need what the sources call micro courage. We're talking about the 1% shift.
That 1% shift is so key because it It bypasses the amygdala, the part of the brain that completely freaks out about massive change. You
Mhm.
don't have to flip your whole life upside down.
Right.
You just need to improve one small thing today. And there's this beautiful metaphor about water. Water doesn't cut through rock with power. It cuts through with persistence.
Just by showing up again and again.
Exactly. The water isn't trying to succeed. It's just following gravity. It replaces this idea of success with an intention of just flow. And that cumulative, consistent flow is what builds incredible momentum.
That is a really key distinction. You're taking away the psychological weight of effort and replacing it with the simplicity of just consistency. But that initial friction, I mean, just starting, that's always the hardest part, right?
Always.
So does the research say we need to, I don't know, bribe ourselves? Or is it just pure discipline?
It suggests we use a bit of psychological trickery. We need to lower what's called the activation energy.
Activation energy.
And that's where the 10-minute rule is just incredibly powerful. When your brain is throwing up all those roadblocks, I'm too tired, I need a full hour to do this right, you just negotiate. You say, okay, just 10 minutes.
But how do you stop your brain from immediately trying to renegotiate? Like, what if I sit down and spend those 10 minutes just arguing with myself about whether I should keep going?
That's the key. The 10-minute rule separates the decision to start from the decision to finish. The goal isn't to complete the task. The goal is just to start it.
Ah, okay.
Starting creates motion, and motion brings motivation. The emotion follows the action. Once your hands are on the keyboard or your mouth is moving, the task feels less threatening, and your brain goes, well, since we're here.
Right. Might as well keep going.
Most people find they just blow past the 10-minute mark without thinking. And if you don't, you still win. You proved you could keep a promise to yourself and beat that initial inertia.
That makes so much sense. You're attacking the inertia itself, not the whole project. But once you get that small win, once the dream has a little momentum, you need something to keep it grounded, right? You can't just rely on motivation.
No, motivation is fleeting. That's where we introduce the daily anchor. This is a powerful idea from habit science. It means you choose one small, consistent action, say 15 minutes of focused reading, and you connect it to a clear existing habit.
So you anchor the new habit to something that's already part of your routine. Not just 15 minutes of English, but 15 minutes of English immediately after I finish washing the dinner dishes.
Precisely. That specificity makes the decision automatic.
Yeah.
That small routine keeps your dream real. It keeps it grounded. It acts like an anchor holding a boat steady in the current.
The sources have this really remarkable anecdote about a personal turning point. And it wasn't some huge life crisis, but this quiet realization after tracking screen time. You're trading your life for scrolling.
Yeah.
This moment creates what they call a line in the sand.
That line in the sand is vital. It's a clear, calm, firm boundary. And the solution wasn't some complicated 10-step plan. It was one single structural change, putting the phone outside the bedroom.
Wow.
That seemingly tiny rule transformed not just productivity, but the quality of the first 5 minutes and the last 5 minutes of every single day. It's a protection mechanism for your focus.
So you're building a fence around your best energy. But if we connect this to the bigger picture, I mean, life is messy. You're gonna slip up, you'll miss days. How do you keep the momentum going when the streak breaks?
You aim for the minimum winning day. This is a concept that counters perfectionism directly. It's the absolute lowest bar you can set, a tiny rule you can keep, even when you're completely exhausted or sick or overwhelmed.
So the minimum winning day might be just reading one paragraph or writing one sentence?
Exactly. The goal isn't to maintain a perfect streak. The goal is to make sure the streak of never quitting stays intact.
I see.
Success isn't built on perfect days. It's built by choosing that next small step right after a slip-up instead of using that mistake as an excuse to just quit entirely. When you mess up, you apply what the sources call kind reflection. You acknowledge it, and you immediately go back to your minimum winning day. You bounce back instantly.
Okay, so let's move to protecting that progress, because once you have these routines, there are these relentless time thieves and energy leaks everywhere, and, well, we have to talk about the phone again.
The phone is the single biggest drain on our currency. And our currency here is energy. We see two huge threats in the source material. First is the morning scroll trap, which just yanks you into reactivity from the moment you wake up.
Right.
And the second is doom scrolling, that habit of compulsively reading negative sensational news.
We talk about doom scrolling a lot, but what's the actual psychological mechanism that makes it so addictive and draining?
We're fundamentally wired for threat detection. Doom scrolling hijacks that circuit. Every time you read a headline with high urgency or high negativity, your brain gets a little jolt of adrenaline, which feels like a reward, but it's a cheap, empty one. It rewards us with this brief hit of urgency, convincing us we're being, vigilant and informed, but it starves us of genuinely useful information. You spend 40 minutes absorbing noise, and it just leaves you anxious and empty before you even start your day.
And if you spend your energy on nonsense in the morning, you're pretty much psychologically broke by 3 p.m.
Exactly. Energy, not time, is the true currency you're trading.
So protection involves clear boundaries.
Clear boundaries. And the sources say you should externalize your discipline. If the phone is the thief, you don't rely on willpower to resist it when it's right next to you. You make small structural rules like putting your phone in another room while you work.
You're locking the door when the thief is outside.
You're locking the door. It reduces the amount of willpower you have to burn through. And the same goes for protecting energy from external requests, friends, family, colleagues.
Which means you have to be able to say no.
It means saying no softly and kindly. Setting boundaries isn't about being aggressive. It's just about being clear on your priorities. You have to protect your energy currency.
But protecting energy often means we have to slow down or even stop, and that's where all the guilt starts to creep in for people. A lot of us confuse pausing with quitting.
This is such a critical psychological distinction. Rest needs to be reframed. It's recovery, not weakness. Consistency is not about moving at full speed without ever stopping. It's about knowing when to pause strategically. Our bodies, our minds, they're like batteries. If you try to run them at 100% all day and never recharge, they die. That's burnout.
That's the forced stop.
That's the forced stop. Resting with intention is healthy discipline. It recharges you so you can be more effective and sustainable later. It's an investment in your future speed.
So what if you're doing some of these micro actions, but you still feel stuck? What if the problem isn't your dedication, but the actual plan you've built for yourself?
That is the wisdom of what the sources call the adaptive strategist. If your plan is too heavy, let's say you decided, I will study English for 3 hours every single night after an intense workday.
Yeah, that sounds impossible.
That plan is structurally designed to fail. It's going to make you feel guilty, and it's going to trigger that inner critic. The philosophy here is so powerful. Never give up doesn't mean never change.
So we keep the mountain, but we change the map.
Absolutely. You keep the mountain. There's the strong, deep dream of speaking English well or your career goal. But you realize the map you chose is maybe too steep or too rugged for your current resources.
So you find a different path.
You change the map. You accept that 3 hours is unrealistic, and you change the rule to a focused 45 minutes. It's a structural fix, not a moral failure. If your shoes hurt on the path, you change the shoes. You don't just decide to never walk toward the mountain again.
That clarifies the whole process perfectly. So we've learned that progress really comes from this micro courage, from changing that inner critic from a bully into more of a coach, and adapting the map when the road gets too steep. We don't need the pressure of perfection.
No.
We just need the momentum of consistency and maybe the kindness of self-reflection.
And that leads us to the final provocative thought for you to carry with you this week. The authors of these sources argue that our routines are never, ever neutral. They're the scaffolding of our identity. They either confine us to these existing patterns of mediocrity and inertia, or they subtly, quietly elevate us toward our purpose.
So you're already writing the story of who you are just through these small, repeated choices every day.
The only essential question is this. Are you the conscious editor, setting those small, intentional anchors and boundaries? Or are you just the typist, following the default script that's dictated by habit and by haste?
So we'll challenge you. Look at the day ahead. What is one tiny rule 1% shift that you will implement this week to move today from just thinking to actually doing? Start small, start real.